tell Bev.
Okay.
Please tell Bev what you received or will receive next week.
Well, it's an award that's being given by the American Inns of Court and the Tennessee Bar Association, and it is an award to a lawyer for recognition of his professionalism, his or her professionalism in the practice of law.
Awesome. Congratulations. That is a special honor. One of my friends who was a judge here actually got a similar award. Judge Benham, did you know Judge Benham?
Oh, I did. Yes, yes, indeed. This is a fairly new award, and as a matter of fact, it was only awarded for the first time to Judge Pam Reeves in Knoxville last year.
Mm-hmm.
So this year the award is going to me, and I'm very appreciative of it.
That's wonderful. That is absolutely
Congratulations.
wonderful.
And Al, tell about the ballpark hit that you had last week with the vets.
Oh, he's on a roll.
I credit I credit Mike for that. Mike Simmons not only kept all those socks, almost 750 pair of them. He kept them all in his front room, and then he put them in his the trunk of his car. And then he delivered them with me to the VA hospital, and we were shooting for 500 pair. We ended up with almost 750 pair.
Wow.
So we exceeded our goal just a little bit.
That's
Fabulous.
great.
Jeez.
Yeah,
But
where we
they were-
started,
Mhm.
where we
They were
started
very-
off, we said we do 100 socks.
Yeah, the VA
And we
was
just,
the VA
Yeah.
people that handle it were very, very, very appreciative of getting the socks and said they would be put to good use.
That's great.
hey, Butch. Still meditating?
Absolutely. Are you?
Yeah,
Good.
I'm a 10%er.
Blood pressure still down?
That's still down.
All right.
Jumping up every morning. That's the first thing I do.
All right.
Bev Butch is a meditation coach, a mindfulness meditation coach.
Awesome.
So he has all of us throughout the pandemic on a very saturated and low level. He's pulled us through the pandemic.
Charlotte, I found another app you might want to check out. It's called Pray As You Go.
Uh-oh.
Pray As You Go.
Okay.
I've added that to my little routine every morning with my 10% Happier app, and then Pray As You Go.
Okay. So is that one, is there a charge for Pray As You Go?
No charge.
Okay. I like free.
Free.
We can just
Free is
meditate
good.
all day. Check it out, babe. Pray as you go.
Mhm.
And Bush, did you say there was going to be a conference or something this year? A meditation conference? in
Well,
Memphis?
we're planning a retreat in October, I think is the proposed dates. Judge Steve Hornsby and Cindy Pinsino, a Memphis lawyer, are working on it. And it's going to be, we're working with the National Civil Rights Museum, Miss Beverly,
Oh,
and trying to set up part of our retreat there. So it's in the planning stage right now, but we're shooting for October. It's the Mindfulness in Law Society, Beverly, a national group that's been going for about 4 or 5 years now.
Mhm. Boy, I hate I missed out on the instructions at the beginning of the pandemic. I could have used your help and support to get me through. I almost went crazy.
A lot of that was going around, Beverly.
Yes, it was.
So, Amy, you want to wait another couple of minutes and then jump in? And
Sure.
introduce Bev? And in also in line with the mindfulness, Beverly, in honor of the Midtown Memphis Rotary Group, Bruce Elementary now has a mindfulness meditation room for the students.
Awesome.
And actually that was because of Bush's initiative. And so students come there and they have the scents and very soft music and talk to them and try to teach them about mindfulness, so that with the ACEs, it's not just on the spot, it's something they can carry out the rest of their lives. And they've named it the Midtown Memphis Rotary.
Oh,
Midtown
nice.
Rotary Room.
Nice, very
So,
nice.
Yeah, we're trying to make a difference.
Yeah. I think dealing with ACEs and all the things that a lot of these young people experience, they need something like that.
Yeah.
They really
Because
do.
I think Dr. Moss, who is the principal, say that they have like a 15% of homelessness at the students at Bruce.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. I think we'd be surprised at how many of these children that go to school are living in their cars and
Right.
yet coming to school every day. You would be amazed. I was looking at some data a while back, and it was some horrendous number to me because I just was not aware
Right.
of that level of problem. And so that was the concern that I had about that. I mean, just not aware. So you don't really know what people bring to the school with them every day. They
Mhm.
bring all kinds of issues. Some may be hungry. Some of them may not have had a shower the night before. They lived in their car. I mean, it's amazing that teachers can do the job that they do. It is
That's
just
true.
absolutely amazing.
Absolutely.
That's true.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we have to work on it
Right,
a
right,
bit at a piece.
exactly. So, yeah.
Amy, you want to get started?
Sure, I am very pleased to introduce Beverly Robertson, a successful entrepreneur, a seasoned corporate executive, a strategic nonprofit leader, and is the current president and CEO of Greater Memphis Chamber. Ms. Robertson has recently been named as one of the Women of the Century in Tennessee by USA Today. Beverly was named president and CEO of the Greater Memphis Chamber in the fall of 2018. She is the first female president of the Chamber's 182-year history,
Wow.
and is also the first African American to hold the position. Beginning her career at the corporate offices of Holiday Inn Worldwide, she gained a wealth of knowledge and experience in a diverse range of business fields and worked her way through the ranks to become acting vice president of marketing communications, amassing experience in marketing research and development, product development, training and strategic planning, and communications. She was also president of the National Civil Rights Museum. While at the National Civil Rights Museum, she raised $43 million over her tenure, which included the completion of the expansion of the museum and the Capital Endowment Campaign. This capital campaign elevated the museum to world-class status. She has a solid reputation as a focus group facilitator, having led numerous groups for Fortune 500 companies. Beverly is respected for her common sense approach to complex business and communication issues. I am so proud to present Miss Beverly.
Look, Amy, you know, I would have been fine if you just said, "Here's Beverly."
No. You deserve that intro.
Look, that was more than gracious. I can assure you, Amy, and I really do appreciate that. I will tell you that my life has been a journey. I have to remind people that I started out really as an educator. So I taught school for a period of time. I taught school also during the day while I worked at Holiday Inn in the evenings. And I started out in reservations and ended up, you know, in a much higher level position. So it's good to know that you can start at the bottom and you can get to close to the top anyway. in an organization if you work hard and are focused and really deliver the outcomes that are often expected. But if you exceed those outcomes, then obviously you get a gold star, like the teachers used to put on your paper. Some of you may not have ever gotten that gold star, but that gold star is what you always shoot for. And so I tell them I taught school for about 3 years, worked in corporate America for 19 years, worked in an entrepreneurial business. Our business is about 28, 29 years old now. My husband and I have a marketing PR firm downtown, 28 years, worked at the National Civil Rights Museum for 19 years. Now I'm at the Greater Memphis Chamber. And if you add all of that together, that's about 80 years. So don't I look good for 80?
Yeah, you do.
And I've known Charlotte for a good bit of that time. Charlotte, I won't give away anything. I won't tell them how long we've known each other. But Charlotte, it has been a tremendous asset to the marketplace, unsung, but definitely major contributor. You know, I don't know what you want me to focus on, but if you don't mind, one of the things I usually like to do when I talk to different groups, because what I've learned is a lot of people don't really understand the work of the chamber. They really, when you say the Chamber of Commerce or the Greater Memphis Chamber, a lot of people say, well, where is that? And what do you do? So when I came to the chamber, one of the things I did is I taught, and I came at a very difficult time. Let me just say that. The previous leader had been killed in downtown Memphis. And I came in to a staff that was still very suffering from that traumatic experience. And there needed to be some consideration of time, giving them time to heal from that. And so one of the things I decided that I would do is come into the organization early and sit down and talk to everyone in the organization. My assistant said, well, you just want to talk to the leadership team? I said, no, I want to talk to everybody in the organization because they may be talking about the leadership team. And maybe I need to hear what they have to say as well. After I talked to everybody, I asked them one question. What is the work of the chamber? Tell me what you believe the work of the chamber is. And for 36 people that I talked to, you would not believe that I got about 36 different answers because some of them viewed the work through the lens of their job and not through a bigger strategic vision of what we do at the chamber. So I, from those conversations, created something that I think personifies the work of the chamber simply. And I promise you, after this conversation, you won't forget the work of the chamber. And I characterize it as PEW. And many of you may think that's a church pew. Well, in some communities of faith, yeah, pew. That is the work of the chamber. The E is in the center of that. And that stands for economic development. And what does that mean? It means the chamber's job is to attract new investment and higher wage jobs. The E, economic development, attract new investment and higher wage jobs, and then help existing businesses expand their footprint and grow in the marketplace. So attract and grow. Economic development is the epicenter of our work. But you can't do attraction unless you have a workforce that is ready to work. And I will tell you one of the toughest things we are experiencing right now, and I think this is important, because of the pandemic, it is very difficult to find people who are willing to work now. You know, even though the numbers are going down precipitously, I know they've stopped a little bit and we need to sort of re-energize the marketplace, but a lot of people are not working. And while we have thousands of jobs in the marketplace, and guess what? Major companies have increased their wages. If you look at the beginning of the year, FedEx, $13.50 an hour, $15 an hour, now it's $17 and $20 an hour to begin with healthcare benefits, tuition paid. I mean, it is no longer considered a company that is paying, you know, that $13, $14 an hour wage. It's now up to $17 and $20. And a lot of companies have moved in that direction because the supply is low, but the demand is high. And they've got to be able to attract people. So without a workforce that is ready to go to work, we cannot attract and grow anything. So economic development, the center, workforce development and building a strong talent pipeline is necessary. And then the P is really about public policy or creating a positive business operating environment. We need to make it easy for companies that want to come into Memphis not to have to go to a city mayor to get this and a county mayor to get this. We need to create a one-stop shop. You come here, you need something, you come in and you talk to a person in the right area, and they're able to provide you with the information, the resources that you need to be able to make a decision about whether or not you choose to come to Memphis. The other thing that so PEW, that's Pew, that is the work that we do at the Greater Memphis Chamber. E is economic development. W is workforce, creating that pipeline, talent pipeline to feed existing businesses and new businesses that we attract. And then creating an operating environment from a policy standpoint that makes it easy to do business in the marketplace. So that is the work of the chamber. And I know all of you probably already knew that and could have given me that same speech. I know that. But I tell you what, it'll be easy to remember now because all you have to think about is Pew. That is the work of the chamber, and that is what we do every day. And I will also advance this notion that since I have been here at the chamber, we have done a lot of work on the data collection side because we do believe that you measure what is important to you, and you define your work and you inform your work based off of data. And so there were 3 studies that were done. One was a study called Mass Economics. And that was a study that was done to help us understand what are the sectors of our economy here in Memphis that will be growing in the future. What are the sectors that are growing in the future? And that study identified 3-4 major clusters that will be growing. They include logistics and transportation technology now, you know, they've the robotics aspect, logistics and transportation technology, medical device innovation and technology, food and ag tech. So companies are coming here because they like our location. You know, this is a tri-state area. There's a lot of land for them to experiment with. So that food and ag tech business is also a growth area. Another area that is a growth area is advanced manufacturing. That is a growth area for us here in the marketplace. And the other area that's growth is music. And that should be no surprise to any of you because music is a major industry here and it is growing and people are looking to us, not just because of Stax and what Willie Mitchell et al. Have done, but these new artists that are coming along view Memphis as an important marketplace as well. So those are some of the industries that are growing and will be growing and will be attracting more of them here to Memphis. I've always thought that Memphis needed to own some aspect of the tech space over the next 10 or 15 years. And we're working on a big idea in that space right now. I had a meeting with Fred Smith yesterday and his executive team, and we're exploring a huge idea for the marketplace, but we've got to make sure that we are talking to Shelby County schools. And I will tell you, we have built a relationship with SCS because we want business leaders to sit at the table with the superintendent and his team and say, here are the jobs that are going to be coming. Let me tell you what skills I need for you to be training. You know, here's how you need to be educating your folks to be prepared for jobs in these specific spaces. And frankly, that's not what has gone on before. You know, the business community hasn't been at that table to say, let me share some research with you. Let me tell you what we're going to be attracting. I'm telling you because I know that you may need to shift, the educational curricula to be able to add these components to it so that when we attract, a huge car company, which creates lots of money and lots of businesses in this space, or a huge technology concern like Microsoft, if we can attract them and have a ready, in-demand population that's ready, in supply population that's ready to take those jobs, then we begin to elevate those people who've never viewed themselves as a person who could get out of trade school, like more tech, and start making $70,000 a year. So now we're lifting the bottom. We're beginning to educate early on. They've got the requisite skills to be able to take the job. And not all jobs require a 4-year education. There are some jobs that require a certification. Sometimes that certification is 12 months, 18 months, 24 months. But imagine getting out, graduating from that program with a certification and going straight into a $60,000 a year job. Let me tell you something. We can drive some transformative change if we can produce enough talent and enough new business so that these young people who are coming out, or even people who've been in the workforce, want to upskill themselves for those jobs, because a lot of people could possibly lose their jobs with the technological, innovations. But if you upskill yourself for those jobs, you don't have to lose your jobs. You can gain more money in a different kind of job. So we have an Upskill 901 initiative that we have launched in Memphis. And the goal, we launched it in 2019. Our goal is to upskill 10,000 people for in-demand jobs and jobs that will exist in the future. And we have already upskilled 4,000, and we are tracking these numbers. And in 2 years, we will meet our goal of upskilling 10,000 people for the jobs that will be coming and some of the jobs that are already here. So that is clearly the work that we do. But you should also know that we've built the A team at the Chamber, and they are running, not walking, because our purpose at the Greater Memphis Chamber is relentlessly pursuing prosperity for all. Relentlessly pursuing prosperity for all. Because we know that when we do that, we improve the marketplace, we can reduce crime. More people are working and taking care of their families, buying homes, getting transportation. All of those things are really critical to the success of this marketplace. And I've talked probably about 10 minutes longer than you probably thought I needed to, but I just wanted to give you a sense of our work and what we are doing to build relationships at Shelby County schools, with our technical schools in the area, with higher education. And we have business leaders that are at these tables now, working with superintendents and presidents of colleges and saying that we want Memphis to be great, but we can only be great if you understand this research and where Memphis is headed in the future. And so with that, I will stop. You may have wanted me to talk about other things. There are a lot of things we're doing at the Chamber. And look, I can't tell it all in this one session, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about any of this work. And I will only mention 2 other things before I shut up. One is that when I came on board, I also wanted to be able to educate the community about the work of the Chamber. So I started something called Taking It to the Streets. And you may remember the song, Taking It to the Streets. Well, that's part of our theming. And that was to educate people about things that are often misconstrued, like incentives. Unfortunately, every city in America just about has to provide incentives to companies coming into the marketplace, simply because it's a tax abatement. It's not money. We don't have a pot of money to offer anybody in Memphis. So we don't offer them a dime. But what we do offer them, and this is what people get mixed up. Y'all giving pots of money to all these businesses coming in. And no. These businesses are coming in and they are looking for the spaces that exist in the community where they can start a business and hire people. So what we offer them is a tax abatement for a portion of their taxes are abated for a certain period of time. They gear up, they staff up, they hire people, people contribute to taxes, and those businesses continue to pay taxes. We do not offer them abatements on their whole taxes. So maybe we offer it on 25% or 50% for 8 to 10 years, whatever that is. But after that, they pay 100% of their taxes. And by the way, they've hired a great deal of people in the marketplace who also pay taxes. So it's not as if we're giving a pot of money. So part of the presentation was to communicate why it's necessary. So what I will tell you is South Haven, Mississippi has money to give. They have tax abatements to give. They have space to give, and they give it. And they're competing hard against the Memphis marketplace. And that's not necessarily our major competition, but I want you to know that West Memphis sitting over here in Marion, Arkansas, over here has land, and they would be happy to have people come over. We're in a tri-state area. Yes, we happen to be the stronger of those markets, but what's to say that they don't become stronger than we have as a result of being able to offer more to attract businesses? So it's not about money for us. We have one tool in the toolkit to attract anybody here. And that tool is really tax abatements. Now, we have a city with lots of amenities. We got road, rail, river, runway. We're the third busiest truck corridor in the United States. We're the second largest inland port on the Mississippi River. We're a major thoroughfare. We have the #1 cargo airport in the world. There are a lot of assets that we have. So we don't have a lot of amenities, but we bring other things that these companies want and are attractive to their operations. So I wanted to say, speak to taking it to the streets. And then during the protest movement, social justice, when we had that incident occur and the store window was broken downtown after a march, I knew that the activist community is very robust here, and that could have created something really tragic. So I actually called a meeting between the activists, clergy, and the some business leaders. And I said to them, I need for us to sit at this table and hear your voices, activists, and try to identify how we can help shape economic equity in this community. And let me tell you, the first meeting, nobody spoke but the activists. I said, everybody else be quiet. We're going to hear only from the activists. Now, you know, with preachers in the room, how do you think that went? That didn't go over too well with the preachers, but they were good about it. And we talked to the activists, let them talk. And then the next 2 meetings, the business and clergy talk. Out of that came 4 major action areas. Living wage was one. Wealth equity and community reinvestment. Equitable MWBE contracting. We have struggled with that in this marketplace for years, but we're gonna make some progress in that space. And the other is corporate and community board participation. I see that there was a question about MATA in the chat box. And I think the question was, how's the chamber working with MATA to improve public transportation? And then I see about upskill as well. Let me tell you what we've done with MATA. The gentleman who is over MATA asked me to go to Washington, D.C. with him last year, before the pandemic. So it might've been late 2019, to present the notion of wanting the federal government to really fund a rapid transit roadway between a downtown area and the airport, fast, express. And they had presented the year before and we didn't get any money. The year that we went with a more diverse team, we landed $11.2 million for MATA. And so that was an accomplishment. And we are also working with MATA and Gary Rosenfeld on trying to help him secure this $40 million in additional funding that he needs to drive efficiency and change the whole trajectory of the lives of people who can't get back and forth to work because they don't have good transportation. Our business leaders lobbied the county commission before we shut everything down. You heard their voices. Normally you hear the voices of the community. The business leaders are usually not at the table. 3 major business leaders were at the table. The president of Baptist Hospital was at the table. Richard Smith from FedEx was at the table. Nike was at the table lobbying for MATA to get this additional funding. And we're going to do the same on the city side. We've got to get this transportation system. And with these infrastructure dollars, in the budget, we're going to see, and we're talking to our representatives in DC to see if we can't make sure that we're on the agenda to receive funding for MATA. So that's what's going on. But we are all in. We are all in from a business standpoint to improve our transportation system for MATA. And the upskill program, how do participants get chosen? We're working with 200 organizations, nonprofits who work with people who are disadvantaged in different ways. Like we're working with David Jordan's organization. We're working with Micah. We're working with a lot of human services based organizations that see people who are disadvantaged every day. And we have worked with them, and we're working with them in 4 major areas. One of them happens to be education, training. There's a whole pillar around that. They see a lot of people who need help all the time. The other one is opportunity youth. Those youth who decided not to further their education, but may have a minimum wage job, but they can be upskilled to higher level jobs. We're working with that pillar. Those returning citizens who've been incarcerated, returning into the workforce, we're working with them as well. And we also have an ongoing relationship with the community of faith because they're in every community. There's church on every corner almost, just like a liquor store. And a lot of these representatives of the community of faith are working with us because they know somebody that's a Baybra, a June bug who's hanging out on the corner, who hasn't worked in the last 10 years, doesn't know what to do and how to do it, doesn't know who to ask and what they need to ask for. So when you work with clergy and they can identify people, then that helps us as well. And we've never worked with clergy in this way ever before, but we're finding that that is to our advantage. Now I, for real, am going to be quiet. Any questions?
I just want to comment, Bev, you are the perfect person for this position. I mean, amazing work that you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I want to see the fruit of all of this labor, and I think you'll begin to see it too, as we gradually kind of move forward in these spaces here. I told them, though, I want you to know, I told them like Liz Taylor told Richard Burton, I'm not going to be here long, but you're going to know I've been here. I'm not going to keep you long, but you're going to know I've been in this space. Whenever I decide to leave it, I hope to leave it Memphis a heck of a lot better than when I came into this space. And there's a lot of opportunity, and all of us have a role to play, whether it's in our respective neighborhoods, working with young people, serving as mentors, teaching us how to do mindful meditation, which I need desperately. And I think if young people had some of those skills, honestly, they would be able to think twice about what they were choosing to do, because it's all about choices in your life. You can make a choice that will incarcerate you for life, or you can make a choice that will send you to the top or start you on a trajectory there. And so we've got to impact. And I've recognized too, that when I came here, the chamber dealt with 2 major areas. They dealt with business and government. And what I said to Richard Smith, who was a board chair at the time, I said, first of all, you left out a critical component to that. If you ever want anything to be sustainable in Memphis, you've got to change the way people view their community, the respect for the marketplace. So you got to deal with community. So now it's a 3-legged stool here. It's community, it's business, and it's government. And without that triumvirate, even if you want to institute change and sort of force it on the community, if they're not engaged at some level, it can't be sustained. So we gotta deal with the mentality and the minds of people and help them to think differently about the city in which they live. Because when we start to impact that, you're gonna and when we start to have jobs and transportation for them, you're gonna see a different city. You're gonna see a different city. Crime is gonna go down. Their respect for their city is gonna go up. And so if we can make some headway in those spaces, and that's what we're attempting to do, then I think that three-legged stool will prove to be invaluable to the growth of Memphis, Tennessee long-term.
Well, Beverly, I would just like to amen what Amy said. I think that you are uniquely qualified for this position. Who else has the experience that you have? And one thing that I think that really has propelled you even further, other than your personality, is that education background, because you realize unless you educate the business community, the government, and the whole neighborhood, we're not going to move forward. And thank you for bringing your vision to our city. And I feel like I'm like everyone else. I am charged at where we're headed. Last week we had Paul Young, and it seems like you and Paul are almost, maybe not knowingly, but a dynamic duo in your vision and what you want for the city. And I just want to thank you. I mean, because you're worldwide, you're international, and you're taking time to speak to us, to get us charged and running down the road. And we appreciate that. Another thing I want to say is we are a service organization, so we're always looking for service projects. Mm-hmm. And so the information that you have given us will also help align us with what's important and where we need to focus. And always know that you can pick up the phone, Zoom, whatever, give me a call and let me know, or let us know, or come back and speak to us about what's going on and what we need to do so we can all line up. As service organizations also are a key component of that.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And really, we probably actually need to integrate you more into the conversation and into the dialogue around where we need to go in Memphis, because one of the things we've got is a Vision 2030 initiative which really defines where is Memphis going to be in 15 or 20 years, right? We have been America's distribution center, for the last 20 years or 25 years. And we're not abandoning that, because we are strategically located in the right place for people to still consider coming to Memphis, locating in Memphis, doing business in Memphis. But we also know that unless we build some niche in that technology space to allow us to attract technology jobs so that our young people can upskill themselves and make the kind of salaries that allow them to take care of themselves, their families, their communities, we might lose out on some opportunities that could possibly have come our way. So we are really taking a deep look at where is the growth in the future and what do we need to do to galvanize everybody around that growth so they see themselves through the lens of that, because people need to see themselves doing better. If you can't see it, you can't do it, and you don't believe it. So that's kind of where we are, Charlotte. I'm happy to come back, because once we get this big idea that we're working on, kind of conceptualized and finalized, it'd be a great opportunity to come back and share it with you all, because you all Rotaries have always been leaders anyway. You have. And so you lead anyway. You lead from a community standpoint in the business sector, the medical profession. You guys lead people. You just are a representation of the leadership that we have in the city. So you need to be aware of the work that we're doing, and we need to engage you in it.
Well, we're on board. And Mike, you want to mention about the Tech 901? Beverly, touched on the technology. You want to mention about your experiences with the Tech 901?
I don't know which Mike you're referring to.
Oh, you.
Okay.
Beverly, I can't thank you enough, for what you're doing and the direction you're going. We just visited Lafayette, Indiana, and we're retreads to Memphis to retire. And about 10 or 15 years ago, they were on the same trajectory as Memphis, and it's changed. We visited Purdue University, and as a Spartan from the North, I was amazed at what they've done, basically through bringing technology and companies back into the Lafayette market. They have a Rolls-Royce engine plant that just opened up. They have several other large manufacturers. And we can do the same thing in distribution and agriculture. And what they started with was education, and it's so important. And I can't say enough. That's what, 15 years ago when the mayors got together and said, we're not doing the education that we need to make our young students ready to work in the workplace. And we lost the tech schools and high school. We put it back in the community colleges and reconfigured what they were doing. Our Rotary meeting that I had for scholarships now has 10 scholarships to young people for just tech schools and community colleges. When I was there, there was 3 or 4, and most of them were disabilities. It's upgrading everybody. And we've got to do it through education. I almost wish the E and Pew was education, because I really think all 3 of those things are going to depend on it. Sorry to bend your ear, but that's just my feelings on it. And thank you again, Beverly.
Oh, you're welcome. And we consider workforce and education to kind of be one and the same, because you can't have a workforce unless you're working with Shelby County Schools, unless we got preschool
Amen.
education. We got to have all of that stuff lined up for us to be able to deliver. You gotta have education. It's fundamental. So I agree with you.
Thank you.
One last point I want to bring up, what the legal community has done through the Memphis Bar Association. There are a number of lawyers on the call, Al and Butch and Yolanda. What we have started over 12 years ago, we give diverse high school students the opportunity to do a summer internship program with law firms, corporate legal departments, and government agencies. And they spend 4 weeks at those places, and they are being mentored by someone. And then these are high school students, and then they eventually, after they graduate, they can decide whether they do want to go on for a legal career. But it's invaluable because the students actually write about it afterwards, and maybe they weren't as interested in school, but now are more interested in school. And what I'd like to see, Bev, if you could take that model and take it to the engineering and the nursing and the medical and the veterinary and the music, just various other areas, that would really give you a pipeline and give the interest. It's almost kind of like what you were talking about at trade school. It can pigeonhole a child to, oh, wow, my talent is here. Let me pursue it. So I just give you that to think about. It's called SLIP, students. It's a student internship program, but it's called Student Legal Internship Summer Internship Program.
That sounds great. Actually, I'm gonna have somebody call you, Amy, from my workforce area, because I think that would be, we weren't aware of that. So we need to be aware of these things. And look, there are enough young people to go around, trust me, who don't have things to do, specific things to do. So I'll probably have, I won't have Amity, but I will Sandra Howell will probably be calling you. So if I could just make sure that I get your contact information,
Sure.
I'd love to follow up on that.
I'll send it to you, Beverly.
Okay.
Amy is a brainiac like you, Bev.
I like that. I like that.
That's why you're connected.
Oh my Lord. Hey, Denise.
Hey, old friend. It's been a little while. I've tried to stay out of your hair. You're underwhelmed or overwhelmed or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
I've been really impressed with the various car dealerships that have collaborated, competitors working with More Tech to teach people technical skills, particularly being mechanics. And when they go through their program, they almost automatically have a job set up with one of these dealerships.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that kind of collaborative spirit among competitors to groom people in technical jobs, not necessarily professional jobs like, in the medical field or the legal field, but other fields where people can come right out of high school, get into a program and really have a high paying job?
Yeah, I mean, the construction industry is doing a lot in that space as well. I think that what More Tech did was masterful in building that kind of collaboration among folks who have the need to have good people with that kind of expertise to repair and work in, those businesses, those service areas of those businesses. And so I'm seeing more and more of that, frankly. Folks in the trade areas getting together, collaborating and saying, look, we've got no supply. If we're going to build supply to make sure that we can survive, we need to come together and create the foundation for that, and then even fund it so that we can get it done. So there's a lot of that going on out in the community, even right now, even beyond what More Tech is doing. So I see, it's interesting. Need makes you do a lot that you might not have otherwise thought about or wanted to do. And I think there are a lot of people who need a lot of help now, a lot of employees, and they're not necessarily thinking about 4 years. They're actually thinking about programs that they can develop and teach and train and then offer a job on the spot. So, yes.
And do you see an organization such as Rotary being able to push that a little harder to make it happen, to, increase the pipeline that might be out there? Because the first thing you hear is, I've got plenty of jobs, but I can't fill them. And it's so often they have jobs that there's plenty of people, but they don't feel like they have trained people.
Mm-hmm.
So is there anything that organizations like Rotary might be able to do to assist in that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are probably a couple of things. If you know of young people who are interested in working, even if they don't have the skills, if you guys would refer those people to us, we can make sure that we find out, what are you interested in? Are you good working with your hands? Would you prefer to work differently? If so, how so? So we've got a team in our workforce area that will take, any referrals. And I will tell you, I work with folks at FedEx and with Amazon. It's interesting how people used to view, they used to say, well, I don't want to go work at Mr. Fred's plantation, but now they're paying $20 an hour. Oh, well, maybe I'll consider going to work at FedEx. So that people don't know what they don't know, and I think we don't mind being a pipeline for targeting folks in certain directions based on our conversations with them. So we'll be happy to do that. If you can identify folks, that would be great. That would be helpful to us.
If I can ask one last question, not to dominate too much, but I'm really frustrated with seeing the hospitality industry here. They're crying that they can't hire people, that they've got jobs open, that they can't give good service, and yet the servers get paid $2.35 an hour plus tips, and the cooks and others might get $7.35 an hour. It's just ridiculous what rates people get paid, and then people wonder why they can't hire someone. Is there anything being done, not just with the Restaurant Association, but with the industry overall, to, I guess, teach them that they need to change the way things are done?
Well, let me tell you what, Richard and other business leaders have said to me. Beverly, I can assure you of one thing. When the pain gets deep enough, when they can't keep people and find people, when the market conditions suggest that they've got to change, not the market has to change, but they've got to change to be able to attract the folks that can keep their business going, they will change.
So their
And
business model will change.
They will change. The market makes you change. You know, I mean, I can't tell you how many companies have changed as a direct result of the pandemic and what positions they've been placed in. And so all of them are even looking at their models right now. They're looking at their models and they're trying to say, what can we do differently? How can we change, you know, what we've done before to make our business more attractive so that we can attract high caliber talent? You know, so they're being forced to do that because of the situation they find themselves in. So yes, a lot of them are talking about this very issue. How do we do that? How do we change? How do we, you know, I hate this word pivot, but how do they change their business model to be able to address the needs that they have right now?
Thanks.
Yeah.
And I have, thank you. You are so enlightening. I have one other question. That East High School initiative, that logistics East High School initiative, I think that would be a great, of course, it's just my opinion. I think that would be a great model for other schools, maybe not necessarily logistics, but maybe a manufacturing. I mean, since you're at the table with Dr. Ray, just different schools that are optional in that way, other than the academic optional. Optional in the way that we need you to be optional for our community. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I will say this. What you're really talking about and what East does, it's about STEM, you know, STEM education. And I will tell you that Maxine Smith has STEM education. I will tell you that there are a couple of other schools that have STEM education, but here's what we're seeing. We think more and more schools will add components of STEM education because that really allows them to either go to get a job where they can be certified and get a job immediately, go into the logistics and transportation industry and understand how to work with robotics, you know. So there are more and more schools that are considering adding a component of STEM to their curriculum. And I think that is going to be extremely helpful because we can't just graduate a handful of people if we're going to be attracting big entities. We got to have a lot of schools dealing with STEM. There's a STEM building going up at the University of Memphis that's going to be educating higher level STEM folks, which is great, but we need pistons firing in all directions to be able to get these young people ready. And East does a great job of it. And I think Maxine Smith, as a fairly recent school addition to the landscape here, is doing a fabulous job. I think that CBU is also offering those students an opportunity to get educated over there. So some STEM courses can be taught over there in partnership. That's a very innovative approach to how you do it. And so thinking out of the box about that is the way we've got to go. And we've got to add that component to more schools for sure. Or have special schools that deal with that.
Right. Yeah, and another thing, we have been well versed on that Tech 901 program in Crosstown. And now I think all of this cybersecurity and Tech 901 sitting right over there, where in the middle of everything, has courses. But how many people know?
Awareness is one thing, but Charlotte, an interesting point that we just found out from the data is that we are number one among 53 markets in the strength of Black tech talent. Memphis has higher African-American tech talent than 53 markets in the country. We need to take advantage of that because that's an attractor for big tech firms. Silicon Valley is not diverse at all. A lot of companies are thinking about moving off the East Coast down to the South or central area of the country because they want to have more diversity. because they recognize that as we continue to grow and as years pass by, the country is going to be more diverse. And so they're looking for a place to be. So Tech 901 and Code Crew are teaching for folks. But the problem now is we don't have a lot of places for them to go. So what we're looking at is we've got to get this niche in technology, and we've got to go after the companies we want here. If we want Microsoft here, we need to go after Microsoft and say, you need to locate right here in Memphis. We are the place for you to be. We're centrally located. We got the assets you need. And oh, by the way, we've got the top tech talent in these spaces. And so we've got to proactively, you know, sometimes chambers they'll wait for the state to send business to them. We got a whole business development team that now will be spreading out across the geographic space of the United States, identifying those companies we want to have here. You know, we want to have higher paying jobs for our young people. But we want our young people to have the skills. So Tech 901 needs to keep doing what they're doing in Code Crew, because we're going to be attracting those companies that they need to be working for.
Beverly, are you seeing a lot of companies also that are willing to take someone still in high school, not waiting till they are in college to be an intern, but rather, like, for instance, Catholic High had a program where they literally would embed somebody just, you know, like in their junior year, and they would start going to work at some company and learning, you know, how to do things, how to behave, how to dress, how to fill out forms, all those kinds of expectations, and get, I guess you might say, enculturated into what it's like to work, and then also to possibly fall in love with the company and the company falling in love with them, so that when they become a college student or say a junior college student, they know where they're trying to aim, you know, what they maybe should be taking in order to improve.
Yeah, I have a meeting scheduled with Shelby County Schools, and I think they're beginning to explore that in depth, trying to see how they can get the young people that go to these high schools familiar with soft skills that are required to hold a job. So they're not going out into the job market, and they go into the job market. Some young people expecting, oh, I need to have my birthday off, or I need to be able to not work certain periods of time. Your birthday off, that's not important. You know, I mean, that's not an expectation you need to have. There are some things you need to understand about the workaday world, and you need to be able to align your expectations, which is what those programs tend to do. It puts them in those environments where they see firsthand, and they are taught how you perform and function in a work environment. So I think Shelby County Schools is moving in that direction. And I think if so, that's going to be a good thing for them. Really good thing. I saw another comment in the chat box about how will remote work challenges impact our environment. I think that the commercial real estate market is probably going to have to look at different ways to lease and sublease their spaces, because I think that there will be some companies who will go to a hybrid environment. You can come back to work, or you can work from home. I think the data, it really shows that people have been more efficient. Some people in some fields working from home. But I think the other thing the businesses are doing, interestingly, is they're changing the layout of the work environment. So they have more collaborative spaces. They've got fitness centers right on the premises. They've got rooftop lounges where you eat, and, you know, they are not as formal as they used to. I just had a walkthrough of FedEx Logistics downtown. They finished that building. They moved into that Gibson Guitar building. They're moving in. They haven't moved yet. I have never seen an office laid out like that. I mean, that whole layout is so conducive to you collaborating with whoever happens to be across the room from you. They've got circular tables and corridors, so conversation areas, so we can brainstorm. They've used the old freight train because it's about freight, FedEx Logistics shipping. They got freight trains that have been hewed out so that they can be little meeting spaces. I mean, it's such a unique environment. You know what? I wouldn't want to stay at home if I could work in that kind of environment. I would come to work every day because it would be a different experience every day. So companies are also adjusting, in addition to having hybrid kind of environments. They're saying, look, this is a whole new generation of young people out here, and we better understand it's a new generation who expects different things from a work experience. And trust me, it's an experience in companies that do those kinds of things. So, you know, a lot of innovation is going on, not just from the standpoint of what happened with the pandemic, but having companies realize that, look, we're dealing with a whole new audience. They're not like the boomers. They don't think like the boomers, you know, but I'm gonna tell you something, a lot of boomers are gonna have to have jobs into their 70s because people are gonna want to have people who think like the boomers in the job market. You know, we weren't terrible thinkers either, you know, and I think the difference between us and young people today is they want to, their enjoyment of life is a priority for them as they work. So we would work to save, to live a certain way when we get older or we retire. They work to spend right now. And so they are really interested in more defining what their work experience ought to look like and be like, and also defining how long they choose to work. You know, we would work in at 9, 10 o'clock at night. They're like, 5 o'clock, it's time to go. I'm getting ready at 4:30. Some of them. So it's a different kind of environment, a different audience, and companies are realizing that and trying to make sure they do their best to address the differences in their expectations. I know I've talked too long, way longer than I probably should have. So I apologize, Charlotte.
No, you told us exactly what we need, because you as a drum major have set us up to say, okay, now what do we need to do? So just consider us your wing club. And so when you need something or you have some more numbers or whatever, because now that's one thing I think we do need to do more as a city. And you mentioned that, us all to line up behind the same numbers and the same initiatives. Instead of you doing great over here, you doing great over there, but we can all line up. And one thing that you have made very clear is the education and awareness in the workforce.
Absolutely.
I mean, that is the bottom line for everything that you have said. And so you've energized me, and I'm sure you've energized others, and got Amy coming out of Florida with a whole new initiative, putting people to work, and then the technology, and Al. So we really appreciate. Are there any other questions or anything? Comments?
Just a quick comment here. Hi, Beverly. This is Belinda BJ
Hey, Belinda.
Campbell. Hey there. Thank you so much for everything. And just wanted to touch base in regards to your big idea that's going on, and the idea about getting Microsoft here and making sure that you're aware of when you talk about partnerships coming from a Rotary standpoint. The Rotary's connection to Bill Gates is one of the strongest partnerships that we have. And while it's on the side of polio, we know that one of his #1 things is education. And there was a great partnership from the past of Shelby County Schools. So there's a listening ear there, and what might be the consideration as to some more talk about how to pull those partnerships together.
Absolutely. Look, I appreciate you mentioning that. You know, that's why we view it as really critical to get Shelby County Schools involved, educated, share with them the research that we have so that it informs their direction, because they don't know what they don't know. And they don't have time to do these huge bodies of research that we have to get sponsorships to pay for. These projects are $100,000, $150,000. School system heretofore has not had those resources to be able to commit. But if we can do them, why would we not share that information with them so that they can grow and change and adapt so that we can have the kind of workforce that we need? So it's going to be a beautiful partnership because we're going to partner with them in a whole lot of different ways. And we are already beginning to do that. And we already see the fruits of that labor. So I appreciate that. And I will keep your relationships in mind as well, because perhaps we can leverage some of your relationships in getting some of this done. So good to see you, Belinda.
Great to see you. Fantastic work you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Beverly, we just want to reiterate, you're our drum major now. So when you need something, our group and you probably can look and tell, our Rotary, the Midtown Rotary group is a very diverse group. Now we have some young people. They just aren't here right now, in and out. And they have put us on another trajectory because with them being a part, we realized, we can't do things the way we've done it. Because if we're not up to par, they won't be around. They'll go somewhere else. But they have brought a lot to the table, and we appreciate that. And the other thing that we applaud ourselves is we call ourselves not the grandfather's Rotary. So we meet in the evenings, 5:30 with happy hour. we have wine and hors d'oeuvres. So feel free, and I'll keep you posted on just coming by anytime. But we really want to know the numbers so we can make sure that we're in line with your goals and objectives. Allison, I'm sorry. I know you have some environmental something you'd like to say.
I'm sorry, I was on mute.
I said, did you have I know you have some environmental information for us. Did you have anything for Beverly on that?
Well, that's a lot of the development that's going on around town. Environmental can play a very important and unfortunately sometimes an expensive part of that. Have y'all been looking at that? I mean, we work a lot with, I personally work a lot with the CRA.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're brought into a lot of discussions, this Bahia pipeline discussion.
Yeah.
We actually brought both the for and against the pipeline to the business community. So the business community could hear both perspectives and both aspects of it and would be aware of, what each group had to say and can make in their own minds an informed decision about what needs to happen. The impact is sometimes unintended impact, sometimes that will occur. And so we are always engaged in, and because we have members like MLG&W, like Valero, like a lot of the manufacturing companies, environmental aspects are really important to this work. And we certainly want to be we want to do environmentally friendly things.
Yes.
We don't want to, we see climate change and what we see is not a pretty picture. So we want to do what we can to be as green as possible and to respect the environment. And we have very detailed conversations about, how we will work in that space when those opportunities come to pass.
Any other questions, comments, compliments?
I just thank Beverly. You always have such energy in your voice and just such a enthusiasm. It's hard not to catch it. So we're just glad you're there, and good to see an old friend.
Yes.
We'll have to reconnect sometime soon.
Yeah, well, look, when we open all the way up, I expect to hear from you all frequently, and maybe bring my team, to a meeting once you're back in person to really share with you some of this data that we've learned. I think you'd be so proud of Memphis. And I think people would have a whole different view of the place where they live if you saw some of those. Now, we got areas to work on too. Don't get me wrong. But we also have some real assets that other people want, which is why we've got now over 50 something projects in the pipeline, but we're trying to get 300 in the pipeline. Because if we can get 300 in the pipeline, we know we'll really be creating. We know we're not gonna land all of them. But let me tell you something, if you got 300 companies in the pipeline interested in coming to Memphis, heck, if we got 100 of them or 50 of them, think about how that changes this marketplace. So those are the kinds of ambitious goals that we have, and we're gonna meet them. We're gonna meet a lot of them.
And we're here to help you.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Yeah, so consider us your think tank Rotary. So
Yes,
when
we-
you need information, and we're so diverse, you'll get everything you need from this one group, actually.
I already see the diversity. I do.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. I think that's great. Because that's not true of all Rotaries,
Right.
but that certainly is true of this one. And it's really refreshing to see that, because that's what we're living in, a society that is much more diverse. And respecting that diversity is really important. And hearing all those voices that you're hearing and that I'm hearing today is really, really refreshing to me.
Well, thank you. Let's give Bev a nice round of applause. Thank you, Beverly.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. And I'm going to slide off. I got one other place I've got to be, but I could not miss Charlotte Hall's invitation to come and participate. So thank you all for all that you do and all that you've done. And Charlotte, thank you so much for your friendship and the work that you're doing as well.
We'll follow up with coffee or lunch.
All right, that would
Thank
be
you,
great.
Beverly.
I will say yes if there's a glass of wine in the offing. Take care, guys.
Okay,
Good
thank
night.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank everyone for attending. And next week we have our former mayor will be here. It was a mix up. When Dr. D from University of Memphis had to reschedule, and I started scrambling trying to find someone else to replace her. Well, I called former Mayor Wharton to see if he could slide in, and he couldn't. And so I said, oh, well, we'll just have to switch times or something. And then he called back and said, okay, I'm ready now. So I'm like, oh, he's ready, but we don't have a spot for you.
We'll make one.
Yeah, so we had to make a spot for him. And that'll be next week. And then the following week is where we'll be totally off our schedule now, the 2nd and 4th, because then the following week will be Councilman Worth Morgan, and he'll present another side. And I think I mentioned the last week, I'm not sure if everybody heard about how Harry was going to run me out of town if I had David Kustoff, and I didn't want to leave town. So we replaced him with Worth Morgan, and when Harry's in a better mood, maybe we can have him, because I think all perspectives are good perspectives. We just need to, tune in. So anyway, is there anything else we need to discuss for tonight?
Any updates on in-person?
Will said they're still working on, they're really looking very closely at the number of us that have been vaccinated. And then our schedule will also go along with the school and what the school decides, because then there's the point of food, and how we want to do that. So he's still working on it. And he said he'll let us know as soon as possible, but we're working within the realm of what the school is actually doing for the students also.
Great.
Good.
Okay.
But we're in good shape because
Yep.
everyone who has answered him has been vaccinated. So I don't know if we'll have to show our little cards or what we'll require, but he is working at that. Anything else?
I think
Jennifer?
the survey was a good idea, by the way.
Yeah,
Yes, it was.
yeah. Because how else, back to like Beverly said, how else do you know without numbers?
Yep.
President Charlotte, this is BJ. Very
BJ.
quickly, yes, wanted to let you know that we had our district board meeting on yesterday, and I was happy to report about the success of your sock drive for the veterans. So did get that word in for the Midtown Club, and just kudos to you all for all the work that you do.
Great. Thank you,
Thank you,
BJ.
BJ.
Well, we got Al and we have Mike and Ben and Kendall, and of course, all the members. We started off with, when we talked to Deb at the vet center, at the VA hospital, she said, oh, we need about 100 pair of socks. And we just kept going until we got Al, 733 pair. Is that right, Mike?
We had close to 780 by the
wow.
time.
780.
Oh,
So it takes a team.
Yes, takes a village.
Yeah. And so now we're charged that might
Or
be
a
something
Rotary
that,
in this case.
yeah, a club, right. But thank you so much for always tooting our horn too, BJ, and keeping us in the forefront. And we really want to make a difference in the community. And we want our club to be, to align with not only Rotary, but we want our club to align with the city and the nation. We want to be a
You
club
earned
where
it.
our voices are heard and respected.
Well, you're more than welcome. You all have earned it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Will,
Okay,
are you
any-
still on the call, Will? You may have stepped into clinic again.
I'm sorry, I am
Why?
here, but I just
Oh, you are.
I can't weigh in too much.
If possible, a number of people responded to our newsletter saying that they wanted to tune in tonight, but they weren't able. Is there a way to get the recording posted on YouTube so that it's accessible to others?
Yes, I've got it recording now and I should be able to upload it this evening. I can send a note
Super.
back to
Thank
you.
you so much.
Sure.
There were a
Thanks,
number of
Will.
people that said that.
Thank you, Will. See the dedication. Will's at work and still being the tech man, Zoom man. And Denise, you
Good
know,
night, all.
yeah. And Denise, I don't say it enough, but thank you for sending everything out.
Sure. Well, let me know when it's not accurate.
It's always accurate. Thank everybody, and let's
Bye.
continue to serve.
Yep.
Good night.
Good night,
Good
everyone.
night, everyone. Good night.